Hi everyone, it's Jan from Jan Plans Things and welcome to my Plan With Me video for this week. First up, if you hear any random thumping or bell sounds in the background, it's because Humphrey is sitting with me while I do my voiceover. I don't normally let him do this, but because he had a little bit of an incident today, he's been awfully clingy. He managed to get up onto the roof of the house. Goodness knows how. Doesn't normally actually go outside, to be honest, so he was having a little bit of a freak out and cried a lot. And so after I managed to get him down, he has been awfully clingy. He hasn't really left my side for the last couple of hours, so you'll see him a lot in the videos. If you see my hand go off to the side, it's basically me making sure he's okay, giving him little scratches on the shoulder. Did you hear that? That was him jumping. Anyhow, so this week I'm continuing with my flowers theme but doing something a little bit different. I decided to do Sakura blossoms, and what I'm doing now is I'm just sketching everything out with my Kuru Toga pencil. You can do it with any pencil, I guess. A couple of you commented last week that I tend to do a lot of sketching without directly with a pen, and yes, that's true, but mainly because I'm lazy. If you do want to plan things out in advance a little bit more, pencil sketches are the way to go. So that's just something to consider when you're doing all of this stuff. I do like having pencils, just especially because I'm not that confident with drawing flowers yet, so it's good to have that extra reassurance that it would be okay, especially because I'm doing something a little bit more technical than I was last week, where it's a lot more loose and free flowing. So the concept behind this week's design is to kind of have a oriental tapestry on the left hand side, because that kind of gives me the feeling of Sakura flowers. I do want to try doing Australian wildflowers next week. I do have a bit of an addiction of drawing some of the flowers there, so I'll try and incorporate that somehow. I just haven't worked out how to change the paint style so that it will work for the journal paper instead of doing it how I normally do on watercolor paper, so it does require a little bit of forethought and planning. So what I'm doing now is just starting out with a Sakura Micron pen in 0.1 thickness. It's not 0.1, it's 0.1 thickness, and I'm just outlining all the pencil lines that I've had in the past. Now, with Sakura flowers, I've always had a little bit of trouble darkening the center, so I find like the best way to do it is to add a few of the pollen stems in the middle and then do the upward strokes. So it's kind of like you're shading the center of the flower, because in theory the flower should be kind of blank in the center. If you ever see one of these flowers in real life, the middle part actually can fall out and the petals can kind of dislodge themselves for it, but you don't want to have that gap. So I do fill in any gaps I have with little small circles to get add that a little bit of extra dimension. So I'm going to have one major stem with larger flowers on it and a larger, longer one on the left hand side which has the smaller buds to kind of add a little bit of hierarchy to the sketch. I'm going to be using a variety of thicknesses of the Sakura Micron today just to add a little bit of depth to the line work that I'm doing. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to switch over to a slightly thinner one. This is the 003. I think it's actually the thinnest Sakura Micron you can get at the moment, and it's a super fine line. It's actually comparable to the 01 Rotring that I was using last week, so very great for doing this fine delicate line work. So I like to use that for hatching, especially on the petals, because I don't want it to be overpowering. So the hierarchy should be that the exterior of the petal should be a little bit thicker than the line work you do in the middle. If you're using the same pen all the way through, it does end up a little bit homogeneous and it does make the drawing look a little bit more boring, so that's why I like to vary between that. I'm now going to use a 05 Sakura Micron just to go around the edges of the flower to make it a little bit bolder. This is a little technique that I used, I think, back in June last year, and the idea being is that you don't outline everything with the thicker pen, only the parts that are touching negative space. So that kind of just makes the overall illustration pop a little bit more on the page without having the entire thing do it. So because if you go over the whole thing with the 0.5, you lose a lot of the detail in between the petals. So you find that I don't actually outline every single petal around it, just around the overall flower as a whole. Especially towards the bud end, that can be where it's a little bit more like too much detail in that spot, so you don't want to be outlining too much of it. I'm just going to draw a little bit of a date in the side, and I thought I might add a few flying petals as well, just to kind of give it that idea of petals kind of billowing in the wind. So I think it's a kind of like a nice little effect that you can do that kind of ties the whole page together overall. I'm doing a really quick scribble type of circle, which I like doing quite a bit. So just doing some really quick little freehand flowers in the corner just to add some interest to the date bubbles, and then just really quick swirls with the pen, which is, I think I've mentioned this in the past, where if you have a shape like a circle, if you go over it a few times as fast as can, on average it looks like a circle. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle every time, and your brain kind of makes up that little gap, and it kind of looks like, you know, like a twiggy wreath anyway. That works. I am doing faux calligraphy again this week. I don't know why. I think I just got lazy to change the pen to my normal Tombow Fudenosuke. So I just did all of that with the 01, and I just shaded where the downstrokes would tend to be. I do notice now when I'm looking at it that I probably should have moved the Friday and Saturday, Sunday bubbles over by 1, but I was worried because of the size of the bubbles that if I did that, there wouldn't be enough space for me to write on the right hand side. So this just gave, so I made the, I just made it a little bit more centered for that. I'm adding some of the Dalerani masking fluid now at the beginning. I had a great comment to mention in my comments last week about using brush soap to coat the bristles first before you use it to help protect the bristles. I find that works pretty well for me as well. I have done it in the past, but I must have screwed it up the last few times I did it because it didn't work completely well, but I have heard that recommendation before. So I think it was just that I needed to coat things a little bit more. Okay, so Humphrey's just come to join us for a little bit. I am trying to do a few more different techniques just to show you guys this time. So I'm using washi tape because I find it's like a very good masking tape just to paste so I can get the perfect rectangle around it, and I could paint the edges with masking fluid, but I find washi tape is a little bit easier, especially if you're doing a whole bunch of straight lines. So it's at least a little bit of a different technique to what I've been doing in the past, but you know, I thought you might find it interesting. I'm using my Peppercorn Arts Handmade Watercolors again this week because I'm just kind of really proud of myself for putting together the palette and doing all the swatch cards, so I didn't want it to go to waste. And I'm doing a little bit different, so I'm doing a quick wash with my thickest brush, which is the Princeton brush, and then dabbing the paint off as fast as I can with the napkin, just to get a kind of like a marbled look. Don't mind Humphrey as he takes little excursions through the filming area. So I'm doing a little bit of a combination of purplish blue at the bottom and then a nice and brighter blue, more cyan towards the top. I'm doing that by mixing the Prussian blue that I have with a little bit of the phthalo green to get that the brighter blue color. I'm using my Fine Tech palette again. No, sorry, it's called Kuru now. My Kuru palette again. You can. Humphrey just stepped in the gold and I had to use a sponge to clean all the paint off his feet. That's what happens when you have clingy cat days. But that's okay. So you can see it's when you're doing a large area of the gold, so this is much larger than what you would normally see me doing, you can kind of pick up the crinkles in the paper. I don't mind it too much. Kind of like a little shimmering sun, so I don't really mind seeing the little crinkles in the paper that much, but I do love how bright it is on the page. It kind of gives it that glowing look, and it really makes the pages pop when you flick around to it. I have decided not to paint the actual flowers. I thought that might be a bit too much, so I'm going to keep with the whole negative look. So I'm just removing the masking fluid for now, and then getting that nice bright white, well in the LT's case, cream color of the flowers, and just leaving those white because I do love the contrast of the quick wash against the flowers, and obviously that does save you a whole bunch of time as well. I do like doing the negative painting look. So that is up to you. If you do want to paint the flowers pink, I think you can. But I also that was me because Humphrey rolled onto my laptop and almost destroyed everything. Whoops. But all good. Recovery is fine. He was being a bit special today. So So yeah, so what I'm doing now, I'm just doing a few little touch-ups. I'm adding a little bit of shadow under the flower branches just to make it pop a little bit more, just to give it a little bit of dimension. In terms of Humphrey and Hermione, a little cat update, they're doing great. They're hanging out together, they're grooming each other. You might see him less in videos now because most of the time he's kind of occupied with his sister, but today he was being a little bit extra clingy, which meant he did feature a lot, but we won't count on it going forward. He's got better things to worry about now instead of me, but there we go. I'm really happy with this. I think it looks kind of like serene and peaceful. I like it a lot. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys next time. Bye!